Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we're going to be talking about a new track on the upgrade system. So the upgrade system has all these different tracks, hero, champion, I don't know what they're all called, like up to 8, another one's up to 8, the final one's like up to 5, and you can get different eye levels on your gear. Everyone probably knows that who's played patch 10.1. Well, they've added a new track to it to kind of make Mythic rating specifically a little bit more valuable, but there are other aspects to it as well. So this track is really only for the high-end players. However, if you can and do complete plus 16 keys or heroic raid, especially like the end bosses in the heroic raid, so like AOTC player, this can affect you as well. So I think that includes a lot more of the community when you factor in plus 16 keys and AOTC. So stay with me here. We'll talk about this new upgrade system that's going to be coming out apparently in patch 10.1.5 because it's on the PTR for that. So basically, right now the highest track goes up to 441 item level. You can upgrade Mythic Plus pieces that high. You can upgrade raid items that high, and it kind of stops there. And that kind of makes the first bosses in Mythic raid pretty pointless, right? Because you can actually upgrade the heroic gear up to that 441 level. So the first bosses in Mythic, the first 4 or 5 bosses in Mythic, are not really that valuable. You don't really want them at all, even on your vault, if you could help it. Because it doesn't matter, and there's better items from the end of heroic than there is at the beginning of Mythic. So this new track the primary thing is to deal with that. So as you can see here, there's an image. I'm on WowHUD's article about it, and you can see them upgrading a 444 up to a 447. You can see a 2 out of 3, so there's 3 tracks. 441 is 1, 444, 447 is the max. Looks like it just takes 1 aspect crest and a few of the flight stones, so nothing big there. And so here we go. This is going to affect the first 5 bosses in the Mythic raid. So Kazara, Amalgamation Chamber, Assault, Forgotten Experiments, and Rashok. Everything after that drops at 447. So even a 444 item that you get from Rashok, you could or Forgotten Experiments, you could upgrade to 447. What's very important about this, specifically I make a lot of Ret Paladin content on my channel. So what's very important for Ret Paladins, and I'm sure for other classes as well, is something like the Pocket Anvil, which I know is also really good for Demon Hunters, for example. This is 441 off of the first bosses. We're going to be able to upgrade this to 447, which is 2 aspect crests, giving it even more power, making it even more powerful. So if you have a good trinket or a very good item, I believe there's like a dagger off the first boss. So if you're a rogue, you can actually upgrade that to 447 now with this new system. So that's actually really good. If you have any good items that drop off the first Mythic bosses, you're going to want to have those to upgrade. And if like you're using the heroic daggers and you upgraded them to 441, you actually want to have Mythic daggers so you can upgrade them further, because the heroic ones will not be on this Mythic track, and that's important to note. Same thing with the Pocket Anvil, like I gave an example of. And I think there's a really rare trinket as well, and you'll want to have the Mythic version of these. I think you can. I think maybe, don't quote me on this, I think maybe the heroic ominous trinket or whatever it's called might be on this track as well because of the higher item level that it goes to, but I'm not positive on that. I will read a little bit about that later on though. For Mythic Plus, this affects Mythic Plus as well, and like I mentioned earlier, if you can do plus 16 keys. So right now, if you do plus like 16 keys, you get 441, which is, again, the first few raid bosses item level. But if you don't do plus 20s, you're not going to really get anything substantial if you're an endgame player. That's how you get the 447 chance in your vault. However, now just doing, let's say you do 8 plus 16 keys, you'll now have 3 items to choose from that with 2 aspect crests, you can then upgrade to 447. This also increases the likelihood of getting a 447 every week because you don't have to do, all 20s to do that. So it basically allows more people to have access to it in the Mythic Plus sense, to have that 447, so you don't have to do 20s. So in this case, it's actually making getting gear a little bit easier for other players, which I don't have any problem with at all. So it is addressing a raid problem, but it's also kind of counterbalancing the raid problem by making the Mythic Plus loot good too. But I'm not really against it because I think this has a lot more access. I think more people do Mythic Plus 16 than do the first few bosses of Mythic Raid, because I think the Mythic Raid's a little bit intimidating. I think having 20 players to play with is a bit intimidating, and like joining a team and stuff. So I think that's worth pointing out as well. And then finally, for heroic raid, very rare loot drops. This means that class trinkets, Voice of the Deep from StarCraft. So they do not mention that beginning trinket. That's very rare. So it is just for the end. So off the last 2 bosses are actually on this as well. So getting a voice from heroic Sark, right? This actually puts it on this track as well. That's upgradable. So you're upgrading to 447, and your heroic trinkets are upgradable to 447. Your class trinkets from Neltharion. So the end heroic bosses are even more valuable than they are now, because you can upgrade them to 447. They're not that 450 level that you'd actually get from the Mythic version of them, but it is very strong nonetheless. So there is that to hang your hat on there or whatever. So overall, this is a very good change. It's probably a little bit late, but I assume this is what we're going to see going forward into the next patch. And they're just probably going to look for more ways to make the Mythic raid loot more valuable. It is such a small percent of the population overall that does Mythic raiding, but that's even more reason, in my opinion, to have that loot actually be valuable and feel valuable. So it's a good step in the right direction. It's not going to fix everything in the world. I still think it still opens up problems where Mythic Plus is just still much easier to get loot from than Mythic Raid. But overall, great change. Like to see things getting upgraded to, this also helps people, like a progressing guild like mine, right? A slow progressing guild, 2 days a week. We're on probably kill Rashok tomorrow. And, we're slowly going through the raid. We'll slowly go through the raid over the next month or, 2, maybe 3 months. And get that killed. This helps us get a little bit of power for our non-optimal comps and our world first players and stuff like that. So it does help in that way as well. But I like to see the power gain. I like to see the change. I think, like I said, I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's not probably the final step that I'd like to see. I'd still like to see this Mythic raid loot become a little bit more valuable than what it currently is. So that's all for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel because it helps me out a lot. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.